All right, welcome to another episode of the Couch Coaches podcast, where we talk about everything going on in sports. And with free agency coming up and the NFL draft, even though we just had the Super Bowl, a lot of football talk kind of going on. And one of the big things coming up for this offseason is, what are the Raiders going to do with their quarterback situation? And I thought we have a unique crew here where we have half Raiders fans and half Niners fans. So I think how we should approach this is, I'm going to ask the Niners fans who we want the Raiders to have for a quarterback, and then I'm going to ask the Raiders who they want for a quarterback. And I bet you we get different answers because we're not fans of the other team. So, Brother Bill, I'm going to start with you. Who would you like to see the Raiders get as QB for next season?
Well, since I no longer have any kind of a rooting interest in the Raiders' success or lack of each season, this is going to be a completely unbiased opinion on who I think would be the best fit for the Raiders if they want to make some noise in the AFC West. I think that the quarterback that they have, with the right system, they can be successful and I say that with the right system. You're going to see what happens with our offensive coordinator now. The key for them, I've always said this about the NFL teams, is the ability to run the ball and stop the run. And a quarterback's best friend is a good defense and a running game. And I believe the Raiders have a good running game if they choose to stay balanced. So the quarterback they got, I'm not talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're going to cut him soon at some point in March. So I can't remember the guy they had last year. I'm drawing a blank.
Skinny fat.
If they do some things, I think, with him, then sorry?
Skinny fat. That's what we call him.
O'Connell. O'Connell, yeah. I mean, he showed that, like I said, with the right system, he could be successful. So that would be my recommendation for the Raiders.
It's just keep him?
Correct.
I like that. So I just so we can keep it all Niners and then Raiders. I think you guys should get Justin Fields. I think that would be entertaining for me to watch, as somebody who does have a rooting interest against the Raiders, just so I can talk more mess at church on Sundays. The worse you guys are, the funnier I can be on Sunday. So I'm going for Fields, but Skinny Fat would be a pretty good second choice. Brother James, I'm gonna go with you. I'm assuming you're gonna have very different answers. The quarterbacks that are kind of thrown around is like Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson. You have Sam Darnold is going to probably be out there. There is the draft also, but you probably would need a bridge guy. So Brother James, who would you like to see as quarterback for your team next season?
Well, as far as the dollar amount with Kirk Cousins, I wouldn't want to pay what he probably was asking for, but if all worked out, I would take Kirk Cousins for a short-term contract, and also get a quarterback in the draft, one that is a mobile quarterback, not a pocket quarterback. I need somebody who can extend the plays. We had a 13 pick, so I would probably use that pick for a quarterback. Our defense is going to be all right. So that's probably where I would go with Cousins for like a 2-year deal.
Okay. All right. Deacon Hill, who's your QB next year?
Well, out of Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins, and then you just threw in Justin Fields a little in that conversation. I would take Justin Fields. And then I would take, because you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
You just don't know what you're talking about. But and I think I would take Russell Wilson over Kirk Cousins. Russell Wilson is more accomplished. He's accomplished more than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is always on the cusp of doing something, and then it falls apart in the playoffs. Something always happens. He either gets hurt or something always happens. So I wouldn't. But realistically, I would draft a quarterback. That's what we need. We need a veteran to come in there. So that's why I wouldn't turn my back on a Russell Wilson as a veteran, come in for a short term. Just come in there and bring some competition. And then even O'Donnell, he's going to be in the mix also. But you need to move up in it. I would move up in the draft. I would trade something to get to move up at least 3 or 4 picks to try to get a decent quarterback. Cause there's about at least 7 decent quarterbacks that are pretty, the margin is not that great between those quarterbacks. So I think you can get a good quarterback with within around the 7th pick or something. So I would move up to that spot and draft a quarterback, and then for a veteran, I'd bring in Russell Wilson. Cause Justin Fields ain't going nowhere.
Okay. Well, that would be a very Bears move. He's not going anywhere, which would be funny too. I'll make fun of Pastor about that if that happens. I like the Russell Wilson idea. I mean, I like Russell Wilson to go kind of anywhere. I know he seems to be, everything I'm hearing is he's linked to Pittsburgh, which I think would kind of make sense. I'm sure for him it would be kind of a drag to get into a defensive kind of minded team again, but the offensive minded team hasn't really worked out that great. I like the idea for Russ because Russ is going to be dirt cheap next year. The Broncos are paying $33 million or whatever. He can come into your team, sign for the league minimum, which he already said he would do if he can come in for a contender. I think it would be pretty enticing for if I'm Russ, being able to throw to Devontae Adams. That's not a terrible thing because Russ can do his little balloon air ball 40 yards downfield, and Devontae's he'll get under it no matter how far he throws it. I think that would definitely be the most economical. He's still pretty easy, 30, 33, 34, so he's still pretty young. I'm sure Ciara would much rather be in Vegas than be in Pittsburgh, even though Pittsburgh's not a bad city, but I mean, okay. Okay, so and Fields, he's got a super strong arm and he's super fast and he's not accurate at all. So if you guys end up getting Fields, have a good time with that. Okay, so flipping it to the Niners, and we're gonna do the same thing. Have the Raiders fans tell us who we think the Niners DC should be, because I've heard a couple names when I'm driving around in the car and I want to jump out of the car. So I'm assuming one of those names will be guys that you bring up. So Deacon Hill, I'm going to stay with you. Who would you like to see as the Niners DC?
I think a great guy for you guys, and he's available. He's a great defensive mind. Pete Carroll from the Seattle Seahawks.
He's coming back to the Niners.
Coming back and being your defensive coordinator.
Just ADD running up and down the sideline.
Yeah, get some excitement. You need some excitement on the sideline. So yeah.
All right, Pete.
I think that would be a great fit for you guys.
All right, Brother James, who would you like to see for us for our DC next year? Take it off of mute.
Stafford's ex-head coach, Brian Shaw.
Oh, you mean wait? Oh,
David
really?
Shaw. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, David Shaw. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's the offensive coordinator.
No, he's the defensive guy too.
That'd be weird.
He'd be a great defensive guy for you guys.
You want us to have a great defensive guy?
Yeah, it'd be great.
That's good. That's a good choice too. I like that.
All right, brother Bill. For a more realistic, who we would really want for a head coach, or for a DC, who do you?
Who I think would be a good fit for the 49ers, although he's not available, is to bring Vic Fangio back, because again, unfortunately, he's not available. I mean that, and both names that I'm going to name are names that, as of today, aren't available. The other pick, and I think I mentioned this last week at church, it would be the head coach for the New York Jets, Robert Saleh, who is again not available. If the Jets let him go at the end of this upcoming season, I say bring him back. The reason why I say that is if you look at the success that the 49ers defense have had since they've had 3 good, solid defensive coordinators in a row. And that's rare to have that turnover, and they're all successful. Vic Fangio, who was part of the Jim Harbaugh's staff, and then they brought in Robert Saleh, who they got from Seattle, and then DeMeco Ryans, who went on to be head coach. I mean, Deacon Hill, if you just want to put a landmine at the 50-yard line at Levi's Stadium, you might as well, because ain't no way Pete Carroll would work with the 49ers defensive coordinator. Ain't no way, ain't no how. Just forget about it. But I get it. I mean, this is comedy hour, so that's cool. That's cool. But
But
Pete
you
Carroll
got
ain't no
you're
way.
doing Fantasy Island. You're picking people that ain't even available. At least get somebody that's available. Well, I got an idea. Why don't you guys just apologize to the guy you just fired for no reason and bring him back?
Well, apparently, unfortunately, that's not an option. So, yeah, Pete Carroll, forget about it. So I don't know for the head coaches who were let go in this past season, the staff. I honestly didn't have time to do my homework to see which of those would be viable. I'm not a big fan of bringing in a college coach. The issues with the 49ers isn't so much the defensive coordinator. I mean, I don't agree with drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank now. Us firing the DC that we had, but I just think that they're a player or two away in terms of their backup linebackers from having the same championship level defense they had before, because that got exposed in their playoff games.
All right.
So, but Shaw has coached in NFL.
Who is he with?
David Shaw in the NFL? Not that I know of. No.
He has coached, not now, but he has coached in the NFL. He was a coordinator before he went to Stanford.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So the name I'm hearing that makes me want to just drive my car off a cliff is Brandon Staley. I do not want Brandon Staley as our DC. I think he had one good year with a really good defense on a great team with a fantastic head coach with the Rams. Everything else about him sucks. Like, he came out of kind of nowhere. He just jumped up to the DC, straight to the head coaching position. I would lose my mind if he's our DC. So I hope he's not. But it looks like they're talking about some internal stuff. And then there's two. He said they've interviewed two candidates that they're not going to say who they are, which makes me think it has to be Belichick and Vrabel that they just did to try to talk them into coming on DC for a season before they get a head coaching job. I can't think of why you wouldn't say who the two people are, especially if one of those two people don't get the job. But if Brandon Staley is our DC, I'm gonna lose my mind. The guy has no neck, and he just talks caca every time he's up talking to the press, talking about all these fluff. Oh, he drives me nuts. He drove me nuts. I don't even like the Chargers, and he drove me nuts.
You get ready to lose your mind.
We struggled. Greg, you can have my ticket. I'll give you a ticket on my games for free.
Hey, you can buy one of my jerseys.
Yeah, give them to me. I'll see if I can sell them. I doubt it.
You better not. No. There's none of that. None of that. I might as well give you the money. I didn't say I'm doing that, my brother.
Oh, I got one more name for you guys. You guys can have our old Ryan. He should be our defensive coordinator.
Nope. No Ryan brothers.
Who?
We're not taking those big shiny teeth on our sidelines, man. Nope.
With the long hair.
Rex Ryan?
Nope.
with the long hair.
Rob Ryan?
Rob Ryan.
Yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah.
You guys can have Rob Ryan.
Rob Ryan been out the league so long.
No, he's a consultant with the Raiders right now.
Well, he was with Baltimore too.
Like I said, he's been out of the league so long.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't count.
He still knows X and O's.
Yeah, in his Chef Boyardee little stuff, not the.
Yeah, hey, X and O, tic-tac-toe doesn't count. You got to come up with something else.
All right. Sticking with kind of a weird situation over the weekend, and this is, though it wasn't like this in particular. What is it with Cam Newton and getting in altercations at football camps? He had a kid chew him out at one game. He's getting in arguments with somebody else, and then he got jumped by 6 dudes. And one, I don't care what Cam Newton says to me, he's a ginormous, super freak athletic human being. Not going to win that fight. And I think those 6 guys that were getting tossed around showed that you're not going to win that fight. Cam is a very big professional, very strong athlete who got tackled by people 5 times their size and was just tossed. I mean, he wasn't throwing punches or anything, but he was tossing dudes. I don't know what happened. I heard he said he's somebody's daddy or something like that to one of the guys, and it just kind of went off. And I don't even know if there's a question here. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about Cam Newton. I've never really been a fan of his because of just kind of how he portrays himself. I mean, he's a big, giant freak athlete, but it's just the outfits and the hair and the Superman thing when you're losing by 30. And I've never been a fan of him, but Am I missing something? Like, who goes to football camps and gets into arguments and fights as much as Cam? I don't. If any of you want to talk about it, I'll just open it up because I don't even know what to say.
This is what I read today. This is what I read. What happened is actually that was two coaches. There was two coaches, and actually they used to do camps with him. They were all on the same team. They did coaches before camps before in years past, and then they had some kind of argument about money or something, and they split ways. They went their separate ways, and Cam started his own thing, and they started their own thing, and then they like did a combined camp together, and that's where that Cam was taunting them. I know everything you guys are doing. I taught you everything you know. I'm your daddy and all this stuff. So he actually got into it with two coaches. And then they said that he grabbed one of the coaches and then the other guy jumped in and then one of the players, though, that was another player that one of Cam's players came in and threw a punch at one of those other coaches. And then the rest of those guys were like security and stuff to try to break it up.
Okay.
But it started because they were taunting because they used to be coaching together and then they not coaching together. And it started like that, just taunting one another.
So it's Cam doing what
basically, and it's crazy. I mean, you go to camps and you set an example for the kids, and now you got the coaches taunting one another. So that doesn't make any sense anyway.
Okay, so Cam's the dude off the field that he is on the field. I remember them being down by 30 on like Monday Night Football, and he scored a touchdown. He got up and did the whole Superman thing. It's like, bro, you guys are getting murdered right now. This is not the Superman time.
I don't want to really label that like that because what it could have been because what I'm hearing is it was like a joke thing. They've been going taunting back and forth, and it could, how it gets out of hand or something. But yeah, so I ain't gonna label him as the bad guy off the bat. But yeah, they were taunting, and he got to the point where he started calling him, "I'm your daddy. I taught you all this and all that." So,
Brother James, you gonna say something?
Yeah, he's consistent.
he's not consistent in passing. He's consistent in getting in altercations. I just remember when the kid, it's like when he got released before he got signed by anybody, and he was running the camp, and it's like some 12-year-old making fun of him for not being on a team. I'm like, dude, you're out of your mind. This is like Cam's. He's huge.
He's at least 6'5", 6'6".
There's that kid running that kid. The kid's dad should be like, you're gonna get my butt kicked if you keep talking crap to Cam, man. Brother Bill, I don't know if you have any thoughts about Cam. I thought it was kind of crazy, and it's just been in a series of kind of weird things with Cam.
Yeah, I believe the fight, like I read about it as well. I believe that fight is an isolated incident. The bigger question, I guess, for him is where does he fit in with football? I mean, in general, because he's been out of the league, right? And so is the narrative now going to be? They had, a few good, what's his quote unquote legacy going to be? Assuming he doesn't come back, right? Few good years, makes his Super Bowl. Unfortunately, Von Miller had his way with the O-line of Carolina, Super Bowl 50. And so it's more about, what's the narrative now for him in terms of football? I almost sense that with some of the comments that he's made has been his attempt just to stay relevant in terms of football, and the opinions where he's weighed in, on Brock Purdy, on other athletes. And I always say, kind of consider the source when people are making statements about others when they don't have the resume to back it. And that's as talented as he was, I think it's just like I said. I mean the attire and everything to me that was almost just a sideshow. Reminds me kind of Dennis Rodman, when he was with, the Bulls. But it's more about, I mean, so I think it's more about, what's his brand now since he's been out of football? That's really the question to me.
Yeah, I definitely think that starting the podcast and stuff he's going for what's going to get the most attention kind of thing. And then when he finds the attention, he kind of doubles down on it, which is not a terrible business move. I mean, that's what you want a podcast. You want people to listen to you. And he did a good job of getting the fact that he even has a podcast way out there, because we were talking about him a lot, especially in the Bay Area, because he was talking about Brock. All right, moving to Chicago. They have a big decision to make, whether they get rid of the quarterback and then draft Caleb and then theoretically have their quarterback for the next 15 years, or Do they keep their quarterback, trade the number 1 pick, and then have just a ton of draft picks over the next 2 seasons, completely redefine or redevelop the team, and try to do it with this quarterback that has not really shown a whole lot, but he's still young, so there could be potential for him to do other stuff. Brother Bill, I'm going to start with you. What do you think the Bears should do with that number 1 pick?
Traded gift picks. I've seen teams where they have, I mean, because he's not a bad quarterback. We have seen teams where the quarterback is just bad, right? Just doesn't work out at all, just has no potential. Justin Fields has potential, but the key for the Bears is, what is their identity on offense? I don't recall a year where it was clear who they were on offense, even before Justin Fields got there. And last I checked, they have the same offensive coordinator that they've had at least for the past 5 years. And so unless that changes, then even if they bring in Caleb Williams, I just sense that they're going to have the same problems offensively with what their identity is. And the reason why I say trade the number 1 to give draft picks, if depending on who their GM is, I've seen teams who within a division who have struggled, and they're able to parlay those picks, and before you know it, in a couple of years, they have a competitive team in that division. And I always say it first starts with competing in your division. If you can do that, then you have an opportunity to do some things, in the future.
All right, Brother James, thoughts on what the Bears should do with that number 1 pick?
Well, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Brother Bill. I think they should keep Fields and trade for some picks. I think they need to focus on the running game, because every time I saw him, he was their running game and trying to pass the ball. So I think they need to go for a running back, and the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and think you're gonna get the same different results. So I do think that they do need to change out the offensive coordinator.
So they do have a new offensive coordinator. They got Shane Waldron, because remember they had brought in, or they were interviewing with Cliff Kingsbury. So they brought in Shane Waldron as their new OC. So they're trying something different. I don't know why they wouldn't have brought in. Well, I guess that was one of the first signs with them not bringing in Kingsbury. I think that might have been one of the first signs of maybe they're not going to go for Caleb, but they're trying something different. Deacon Hill, what do you think that Chicago should do?
Yeah, this is gonna. I don't know. It might snow tomorrow, because I'm agreeing with Bill also. I don't know what's gonna happen, but yeah, I was reading up today on Peter King was talking about the draft and stuff. He was talking about the boatload of picks that they could get for trading, and then he gave Justin Fields a grade of a B quarterback. And just like you say, you go for Caleb, and you really don't know, because there's been busts that come out in the number 1 overall picks. Manziel, and you can name a few of them that came out that didn't pan out. And with Justin Fields, you know what you have. And then that their defensive, their GM, which is his name is Ryan Poles. He traded down last year and brought in DJ Moore, the receiver. So he has a history of trading for picks and stuff like that. So I think that's the route they're gonna do. And they got a boatload of picks. They can get first rounds, and then they got first round picks in 2025. They could retool that team, and that's the route they need to go, because they're not just one player away anyway. So yeah, they would do great to trade that pick and load up on talent.
Yes, it's tough, because if he was my quarterback, I would want a different quarterback. Like, if he was a Niners quarterback, I want somebody different. But I think it's hard, because the dude is so fast, and he has such a strong arm, and he's so athletic. When you look at him, when you look at like the tangible quarterback stuff, you go, how can we not make this work? This dude is a full on just stud athlete. somebody has to be able to figure out how to make him accurate. And I think what happens is people look at Josh Allen, and this is what happens. Somebody does something with somebody that kind of is in the same mold as their quarterback, and they go, "Oh, we'll just do what they did." And the build, like Josh Allen was a mess coming out of college. Dude was like 50% completion. I mean, he's kind of terrible. He's just gigantic. First year, not great, but he kind of slowly got better and better. And I'm sure the idea is like, look, we have this just dude that if we could just get him more accurate, maybe reading the defense a little bit better, maybe pulling the trigger a little bit faster, we can make it work. It's a tough spot because the stuff I've seen from Caleb. I know the people on the radio love him, podcasters love him, but I see kind of a Kyler kind of dynamic with him where he's got, and granted he's a kid, so I'm not saying it sounds stupid to say, oh, he's got some maturity issues. He's a kid, I get it, but quarterbacks are like they're like different humans. The top quarterbacks are like it's like they're old men in like young guys' bodies. They're professional and they're this at like 22. They're like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and I don't see it with him. I see him being kind of immature, kind of up and down. I wouldn't bank my future on him, but then I don't with the other guys, you don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot of who's going to be good. Like the Michigan kid, I don't see how he's going to be, great. We got the guys from North.
What's his name? McCarthy.
Yeah. I mean, he's a little dude. He's going to get popped once and he's going to be knocked out. So it is such. You would think that the GMs would be better at knowing the traits that are going to turn into like at least like top 10, top 12 quarterbacks. And even that, it just seems like a crapshoot. They work them out. They talk to him, they hang out with them, they do all this stuff, and they go, "This is our dude," and they get him, and you go, "What?" Like the Jets with Wilson. How awful is Wilson? And they were like, for sure, he's going to be number 2. He's our guy. He's terrible. Like he's way worse than Fields. So when you talk about those guys you bring in and they just don't work, dude, Wilson does not work with the Jets at all, which is why they got Rodgers. It's a tough shot for the Bears because it's the potential highs and the potential lows are massive with either decision that they make.
But look, it's easy for you to say if I had a quarterback like that, I would go because with the Niners, you don't have that many holes to fill. But when you have a team that got so many holes to fill, a great quarterback bringing in a great quarterback you're still gonna be at the bottom of everything.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is there's recency bias also because look at the Bengals, the worst team the last like 25 years. Bring in Burrow, it's a completely different team. The Texans, horrific. Bring in a new quarterback, completely different team.
Yeah, but I think, and this is where, I mean, there's not an earthquake, so if it gets snow, I'm gonna have to agree with Deacon Hill on this one. And that is that with the Bengals, Joe Burrows took them to the next level. They had a good team. They already had a defense. They already had a running game. They had a good coach. Burrow was that missing piece for them. And with the Bears, even as talented, as good as Caleb Williams looked in college, there's a big jump between college and when you go to the NFL, when you're playing against professionals on defense. You're playing against dudes who have been there. You're not playing against, they're professionals and they've got a defensive coordinator. They're professionals. It's night and day. That's why I just don't get excited about these highly, drafted quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, great example. Who? I mean, you just don't hear about it. So I guess I would sum all that up to say, you have to ask yourself, are there more quarterbacks like a Brock Purdy? And I'm just using him as an example, who just goes unnoticed, right? Last pick in the draft and seems to be working out with the Niners. Or are there more, or I'll use what's his name? In Miami. Took a while.
Well, Tagovailoa took a different coach.
Tagovailoa, yeah. I guess my point is to your point is I think there are more just unknown quarterbacks, and you just don't know until they get to the NFL, regardless of what they did in college. And so I'm always an advocate of when you have, getting back to the Bears, they know what they have with Fields. It's just, can they make him better? Can he be a better decision maker? Athleticism in the NFL only gets you so far. But rule number one is you have to be a good decision maker with the ball. Because if your running game is your quarterback, like that's why Buffalo Bills, that's why they couldn't get past they couldn't get past Kansas City. The running quarterback is their running game is not gonna win you any championships.
I
I'm
thought
sorry.
you told me that defense wins championships. Didn't the Ravens win with a guy named Tim Hasselback? Did they win the Super Bowl?
No, are you talking about Trent Dilfer?
Dilfer.
Dilfer?
Similar,
Yeah, but
similar quarterback though.
Yeah, I get them mixed up. But yeah, they're pretty close. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, and Fields is better than Dilfer. If you put the talent around him, I think they'll be way better off that way. And
if the Ravens had you as quarterback, they would have won that Super Bowl, Greg.
You try to throw Purdy in there, so let me make a comment on that one also. That guy he's the luckiest guy. He should go play the lotto or something because he just fell into the greatest situation. If you put Tua on the Niners, you guys probably would have won the Super Bowl this year.
Nope. Purdy's that dude.
Purdy is that lucky guy that don't have to do much.
All right.
We'll see this season. More teams have to. It's going to be a harder season this upcoming season than last season. So we'll see. So Joe, save this recording and we go play it back just like last year.
They're all saved. They're on YouTube.
Save that. We go play it back and see how things shake up with the Raiders. And see how they shake up with the
that
Niners.
black and silver going to be on a roll.
Yeah, they're going to be on a roll. Hopefully, you get out of the bottom of the division, my brother.
Rolling.
That's like I said again. I don't have a rooting interest.
Wasn't in the bottom of the division this year. We
What's
got
that?
out this year.
They got Harbaugh.
That's my point.
Harbaugh now.
Don't regress. You got to get better.
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough year.
Okay, Moses.
All right, you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. More sports happening this week, and we'll be on this again next Tuesday. You guys have a good week, and see you then.